I only borrowed my daughter-in-law's laptop for 1 minute to print an insurance form. The screen flashed, and a strange window popped up, durable power of attorney, signed in my name. At the local repair shop, the IT guy whispered, "Call the police now." And that's when I understood they didn't just want my house, they wanted my life. My name is Marjorie Hale, and I am 62 years old. For the past 4 years, since my husband Cal passed, I've lived alone in our little cedar-shingled cottage. It's perched right on the edge of Harbour Ridge, where the pines meet the bluff, and the windows look out over the grey sweep of the bay. The house is quiet, filled with the things Cal and I collected. His old leather armchair still sits by the fireplace, the cushions permanently moulded to his shape. Sometimes, when the fog rolls in, I swear I can still smell the pipe tobacco he favoured. It's a good house. A solid house. The quiet ended 3 months ago. My son, Thomas, lost his job some kind of downsizing at the shipping firm. He's 39, and he called me, his voice thin with a familiar panic. He asked if he, his wife Lena, and their daughter, my granddaughter June, could stay. Just for 6 months. "Mum," he promised, "just until I get back on my feet." How could I say no? June is 8 years old, all bright eyes and missing front teeth. And Thomas is my son. The first week was an adjustment. The second week is when Lena started to help. I came down one morning to find the kitchen entirely rearranged. My spice jars, which had lived next to the stove for 20 years, were now in a drawer across the room, each one bearing a crisp, white label from a machine I didn't own. "It's just more efficient this way. Marjorie?" Lena said, not looking up from her phone. She called me Marjorie, never Mum. Then the Wi-Fi password changed. The old one wasn't secure, she announced, taping a new card with a 32-character alphanumeric code to the fridge. The next day, she suggested a joint credit card. "It'll make groceries so much easier?" She smiled, a quick, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We can just run everything through one account for convenience." I politely declined, saying my old ways worked fine. Her smile faltered, just for a second. My utility bills, usually predictable, suddenly spiked. The water bill doubled. When I checked my bank statements, I found grocery delivery charges from services I'd never used, items I never buy, expensive cuts of meat, imported cheeses, cases of wine. Thomas was a ghost in the house. He left before I woke up, claiming job interviews, and returned long after June was in bed. He'd kiss my cheek, his breath carrying the faint, sour tang of alcohol, and murmur something about tough leads. I didn't push. I didn't want to argue. Not with June sleeping just down the hall. Her presence a fragile truce in the growing tension. One afternoon, I came home from the market to find Lena in the driveway talking to a man in a sharp blue blazer. He was holding a clipboard and squinting at my roofline. "Oh, hi, Marjorie," Lena said, breezy. "This is Val from Seabright Realty. We were just scheduling an appraisal." My stomach tightened. "An appraisal, why?" "Just to see the value," she said, waving a dismissive hand. "It's good to know these things. For planning." That night, I went to the old oak chest in my study, where Cal kept all our important papers. The box of property deeds, the title to the house, was still there, but not where I'd left it. It was pushed to the back, underneath a stack of old tax returns. The small brass lock I kept on it was still fastened, but I saw it instantly faint, thin scratches near the keyhole, the marks of a prying tool hastily applied. The air in my own home felt thin, suffocating. The next day, while Lena was out with June, I heard her talking to Thomas in the kitchen. Their voices were low, urgent. I only caught one clear sentence from Lena. Her tone was sharp, impatient. "It's all going to be Thomas's anyway. Marjorie, we're just organising the inevitable." The inevitable. I went back to my study. I pulled out a new, blue-covered ledger, the kind I used to use when I ran the Blue Lark upholstery shop. I opened it to the first page, smoothed it flat, and picked up a pen. With steady hands, I began to write down every strange charge, every odd occurrence, every overheard whisper. It was a habit from a lifetime of balancing books, of making sure the accounts were settled. A deep, cold dread was settling over me. But I pushed it down. I had to keep the peace. I had to be rational. I had to do it for June. My old printer was jammed. I needed a single sheet of paper, just the new declaration for my car insurance. But the machine was flashing an angry orange light. I'd been pulling at the torn edge of the paper for 10 minutes when Lena walked in. "You're going to break it. Marjorie," she said, not looking up from her sleek, silver laptop. She sighed, that impatient, whistling sound she made through her teeth. "Just use mine. My Gmail is already logged in. Email the file to yourself and print from there." She slid the laptop across the kitchen table. It felt cold, unnaturally heavy. I took it into the study, setting it down next to the offending printer. I didn't need Gmail. I just needed to connect the printer cable. The moment I plugged the USB into the side of the laptop, the screen didn't just wake up. It flashed. A new window snapped open, covering the desktop. It wasn't an email program. It was grey, official-looking, with a logo I didn't recognize. The title read, DocuSign Proxy. My breath hitched. Below the title, in smaller type, were 2 lines. Financial authorization, Marjorie Hale. Status awaiting biometric verification. My hand was shaking. This wasn't a printing error. I minimized the grey window, my heart hammering against my ribs. Lena's email inbox was open behind it. I saw the drafts folder. There were 2 new ones. I clicked. The first was addressed to the Bank of Shoreline, our local branch. The subject line was Asset Consolidation FWD. I opened it. It was a short, formal request, and attached was a file Consolidated Asset Statement, primary owner Marjorie Hale, co-beneficiary Thomas Hale. Co-beneficiary. The word pulsed. My gaze flickered to the other draft. This one was addressed to a long, nonsensical email address I didn't recognize. The attachment was a scanned image. I clicked it. My own face stared back at me. It was my driver's license, my address, my date of birth, my signature. I had never given Lena a copy of my license. I hadn't taken a new photo in 5 years. Where did she get this? I felt dizzy. The air in the study suddenly too thin. I moved the mouse, and as it passed over the browser settings, a small box popped up showing saved passwords. My eyes scanned the list. Bank of America, Netflix, Zappos, and then one that made me go cold, County Registry e-Filing, the official electronic system for filing property deeds. I slammed the laptop shut. The sharp clack of plastic hitting plastic echoed in the quiet room. "Having trouble?" I spun around. Lena was leaning in the doorway, that faint, tight smile on her face. She wasn't surprised or annoyed to find me there. She looked watchful. "The printer," I stammered, pushing the laptop away from me. It isn't working. I saw. She walked into the room, her movements calm, and picked up the laptop, cradling it in one arm. Her touch was proprietary. Don't worry about it. Marjorie, you look tired. Let me take care of it. She didn't mean the printer. I waited 1 hour. I watched from the window as she took June to the park. Thomas was, as always, out following a lead. The moment their car turned the corner, I grabbed the laptop from the kitchen counter, my purse, and my car keys. I left my own phone on the kitchen table. Harbour Bite is a small, cluttered repair shop tucked behind the bakery. Evan, the owner's son, is a young man, barely 25, who always wears faded band t-shirts and seems to survive on energy drinks. Mrs. Hale, he said, looking up from a tangle of wires, surprised. What's up your Wi-Fi on the fritz again? Evan? I said. My voice came out low and urgent. I need you to look at this. It's my daughter-in-law's. I pushed the laptop onto the counter, clearing a space between stacks of old hard drives. I think there's something very wrong with it. He saw the look on my face, and his entire demeanor shifted. The casual humor vanished. He took the laptop, plugged in a device, and his fingers flew across the keyboard, bypassing the login screen. He stared at the screen for a long time, clicking, opening text files that looked like nonsense to me. He checked the login history, his brow furrowing. Okay, he said slowly, his voice tight. There's remote access software installed. It's been active. Someone's been logging in when the machine is supposed to be asleep. He navigated through hidden folders, moving faster than I could follow. Then he stopped. Oh, hell. He opened a file. It was a PDF document. I saw the title clearly, Durable Power and Hail Final, PDF. What is that? I whispered. He didn't answer me. He opened another program, one that showed lines of code. There's a macro, he said, his voice strained. It's a script. It's designed to... Mrs. Hale. It's designed to take a scanned image of a signature and automatically apply it to a digital document when a specific prompt is triggered. He looked up from the monitor, his young face pale, his eyes wide with an alarm that mirrored my own. He leaned far across the counter, so close I could smell the faint scent of coffee on his breath. He spoke in the barest whisper, so low it was almost lost in the hum of the cooling fans. Call the police now. The words hit me like a physical blow. I mean it. He was already working, grabbing an external drive and plugging it into the laptop. I am making a full forensic copy of this drive, right now. I'm also printing the technical report of everything I just found, the remote access logs, the file metadata, the macro script. His own printer whirred to life, spitting out pages. He folded them quickly, grabbed a small black USB drive, and pushed both into my hand. Go to the police. Do not go home. Do not tell them you are here. And do not tell them you have this. I'll wipe my logs of this visit. As far as anyone knows, this laptop never left your house. I didn't drive to the police station. I drove to a quiet street 2 blocks over, to a small, second-story office above the town post office. The name on the frosted glass door read Fern Wilder, Esquire. I held the USB drive Evan had given me in my closed fist. The folded printouts were in my purse. Fern Wilder was not a woman who wasted time on platitudes. She was in her late 50s, perhaps, with intensely sharp eyes and grey hair pulled into a severe knot. She didn't offer me tea. She offered me a legal pad and a pen, sat opposite me at a heavy oak table, and said, "Start at the beginning. Leave nothing out." I told her everything. The move-in, the labels, the Wi-Fi, the appraisal. Then I told her about the laptop. I slid Evan's printouts and the small USB drive across the table. She didn't look at me. She read the technical logs first, her finger tracing the lines of code. She examined the file name, durable, power, mhale, final, PDF. "They were close," Fern said. Her voice was level, carrying the flat, cold weight of fact. "Marjorie, a durable power of attorney is the most dangerous document in civilian life. It is designed to give someone absolute control over you if you are incapacitated. It is a tool of care." She looked up at me, her eyes pinning me in place. "But when it's used like this, it is the skeleton key to your entire life. It is legalized, catastrophic theft. That biometric verification prompt, that wasn't for the future. That was the final step before they submitted the paperwork to the bank and the county. They were attempting to gain the power to sign your name to sell your house, empty your accounts, and take on debt in your name, and you would have been powerless to stop them." She turned to a clean page on her own legal pad. "We don't have time to react. We have to act. We will launch a three-pronged counteroffensive, effective immediately. 1, we freeze your assets. 2, we alert the banks and the county registry. 3, we establish an undeniable legal chain of custody for this digital evidence." She tapped the USB drive. "This is the ballgame." She picked up her desk phone. "We start with the Bank of Shoreline, right now." She dialed, navigated the automated system with ruthless efficiency, and finally had a senior fraud manager on the speakerphone. After I verified my identity with my mother's maiden name and the address of my first apartment answers that tasted like ash in my mouth, the manager's voice filled the room. "Yes, Mrs. Hale? Thank you for calling. We have that application right here. It's for a new joint account. Adding Mr. Thomas Hale as a co-beneficiary. It's in final review, pending the submission of the notarized power of attorney." I felt the room tilt. Fern was already talking. "That application is fraudulent. It is part of an ongoing criminal investigation. I want a complete freeze on all of Marjorie Hale's accounts and assets. Nothing moves in or out without my verbal and written code. Am I clear?" The silence on the line was brief. "Yes, Counselor. Freezing the accounts now. Next, the house." Fern was already typing on her keyboard, bringing up a government website. "Penny County." She turned the monitor to me. "We are registering you for the county's title alert system. If any document, a lien, a transfer, a deed change is filed against your property, you and I will both receive an instant text message." I filled in my information. Another lock clicked into place. "Now, the police." She picked up her phone again. "Evan was right to tell you to call them, but you don't walk into the front desk with a case like this. I am calling Chief Marlowe directly. I know him well. We are filing a report for identity fraud and financial exploitation of the elderly. And, Marjorie..." She paused, her expression softening for the first time. "We are making one thing the absolute priority, the safety and well-being of your granddaughter. June. She is 8 years old. She is to be kept entirely clear of this. She is an innocent, and the law will treat her as such. She will not be pulled into this conflict." A wave of relief, so profound it almost made me weak, washed over me. The next hour was a blur of surgical procedures. Fern printed a document. This is a new, proper, legally vetted power of attorney, naming me as your legal representative. By signing this in front of a notary, my assistant is one you are legally revoking any and all other power of attorney documents that may exist, whether you signed them or not. I signed my name, my hand steady. She then pulled a small box from a desk drawer. Inside was an old-style flip phone, the kind I hadn't seen in a decade. This is your safe phone. It has 2 numbers in it, mine and Chief Marlowe's. You will not use your smartphone. We must assume it is compromised. Leave it at home. Turned off? As if on cue, she dialed Evan at Harbour Bight. "Evan?" she said, putting him on speaker. "I have Mrs. Hale? She needs to lock her credit. All 3 bureaus." For the next 20 minutes, guided by Evan's patient voice, I did just that. I called the 3 major credit bureaus Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion and placed a full credit freeze. I changed every online password I had. "Good," Fern said, hanging up. "One last step. We have a secret, emergency hearing at the courthouse in 30 minutes. I just filed the petition electronically. A hearing for a temporary financial restraining order," she explained, already putting her files into a slim briefcase. "An ex parte injunction. It means we go to the judge without the other party present, based on the immediate and irreparable harm they are causing. When we walk out of that courthouse, it will be a court order forbidding Lena and Thomas from accessing, transferring, or even inquiring about your money, your assets, or your home, pending a full hearing. We are building a legal wall, and we are building it right now." I returned home later that afternoon, the courthouse injunction folded in my pocket, the small flip phone heavy against my hip. I placed Lena's laptop back on the kitchen counter, exactly where I had found it. I wiped my fingerprints off the casing, just as Fern had instructed. Then, I went into my bedroom, turned off my smartphone, and put it in the back of my sock drawer. I only had to wait an hour. Lena came back with June, gave her a juice box, and sent her to the backyard. I watched Lena walk directly to the laptop. She didn't open it. She just touched the lid, then slowly turned her head to look at me, where I stood washing a coffee mug. "You used my computer," she said. It was not a question. It was a cold, flat accusation. "I tried," I said, keeping my voice level, keeping the tremor out of it. "I was trying to print that insurance form. I couldn't get it to connect to the printer." "That's a lie." Her voice was like ice. "My logs show unauthorized access. You were snooping. Marjorie. You invaded my privacy." "I have no idea what you're talking about. Lena, it's your computer." I turned back to the sink, my heart hammering, but my hands were steady. She made a sound, a short, sharp hiss of disgust, and left the room. The confrontation I dreaded, however, was with Thomas. He came home after 8 o'clock, long after June was in bed. He smelled faintly of sour wine. I was sitting in Cal's leather chair, waiting, the room dark except for one small lamp. "Mum, you're still up." He sounded weary, his shoulders slumped. "Thomas, we need to talk." He sighed. "Look, if this is about Lena, she's just stressed. The job hunt is killing me. We're all on edge." "This isn't about being on edge, Thomas." I needed to see how deep he was in this. "I had a look at my finances, and I've spoken with an attorney." He froze. He didn't just tense. He stopped breathing for a second. What? I also had to speak to the police. The word police shattered his exhaustion. His eyes flew wide, panicked. Police? Why, Mom? What did you do? You can't just do that. We're family. Don't make this a big deal. He was breathing hard, his gaze darting around the room as if looking for an exit. They're calling it identity fraud. Thomas, I said quietly. Oh, God. He sank onto the ottoman, his head in his hands. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What about the DocuSign files? Thomas, the power of attorney. He shook his head, rocking slightly. He wouldn't look at me. I don't know. I didn't. Lena handles the computer stuff. He was lying, or at least hiding behind a half-truth. He was a coward. My son was a coward. The next morning, the house was thick with unspoken war. June, however, was a bubble of pure sunshine, unaware. She ran down the stairs in her footed pajamas and threw her arms around my waist. Grandma, is my birthday party still going to be at the house? Mama said we're having a bouncy castle in the yard. I knelt and hugged her, burying my face in her strawberry-scented hair for a moment, drawing strength from her. Of course, sweetie, I murmured, my voice thick. We are going to have the best party. Is Mama mad at you? She whispered. I pulled back and forced a smile. No, darling. The adults are just working out some very boring, grown-up paperwork. It has nothing to do with you. You just worry about being 8. Lena, however, was escalating. She found me by the fireplace, where I was dusting the mantel. Marjorie, she said, her tone falsely bright. Thomas and I were thinking, this room is so large, and the guest room is so small. It's just not practical. We're going to swap. We'll take this room, and you can move into the guest room. It'll be cozier for you. My blood ran cold. The master bedroom. The room with the old wall safe, hidden behind Cal's favourite seascape painting, where I kept my passport and his mother's jewellery. No, I said, my voice flat. No. What do you mean? No, it's just a room. No, Lena. I will not be swapping rooms. Her eyes narrowed. You're being very difficult. That afternoon, 2 new attacks came. The first was an email on my computer. I had to turn my phone on briefly to check the message from Val. A new email popped up. IRS urgent. Your social security number has been flagged for fraud. Click here to verify your identity. I immediately picked up the safe phone and called Fern. Phishing, she said instantly. They're getting desperate. They know they're locked out of the bank. So now they're trying to get your SSN directly. Do not click. Delete it. The second attack was the text message I was waiting for. It came to my regular phone. Hi, Marjorie. This is Val from Seabright Realty. Just need to pop by Friday at 2 o'clock to get those final photos for the portfolio. Let me know. I showed the message to Fern when she called me back on the safe phone. This is the trap, she said. We're going to let him come. Reply and say that Friday at 2 is fine. I'm letting Chief Marlowe know. He will have plainclothes officers in the area to observe and document. The final crack in our fragile domestic charade happened that evening. Lena was trying to check out on a massive online order designer clothes, electronics. Things that were definitely not groceries. She stormed into the kitchen, where I was reading the paper. She slammed her phone down on the counter. My card was declined. Was it? I asked, not looking up. The card you gave us? The convenience card. You did something. I didn't do anything. Lena. I simply put a spending limit on my own credit card. I've set it to $500 a month. That should be more than enough for any groceries you need to pick up. The colour drained from her face, then rushed back in a hot, mottled flush. $500? You're humiliating me. You're treating us like children. This is my money, Lena, I said, finally folding the paper and looking her straight in the eye. Thomas rushed in, drawn by the shouting. Mom, please, just fix it. Stop making things difficult. I stood up. The tremors were gone. The fear was gone. There was only a cold, hard certainty. I looked at my weak son and his furious wife, and I spoke, my voice low but carrying to every corner of my kitchen. This is not your house. This is not your money, and it is not your decision to make. This is my house, until a court of law says otherwise. The legal wall Fern was building was invisible, but the pressure it created was palpable. While I acted out my part in the tense domestic silence, Fern and Evan were dismantling Lena's plan, piece by digital piece. Fern had taken Evan's original USB drive and logged it as official evidence with the police. Evan, however, had kept the disk image. He'd made a perfect, byte-by-byte copy of Lena's hard drive, frozen in time. He worked on that copy, ensuring the original evidence was never tampered with. He called Fern's office when he found the next piece. He patched me in on the safe phone. They were covering their tracks, Evan explained, his voice fast and sharp. There was a cron job set up. It's a scheduled task. It was programmed to automatically email that PDF, the Durable Power M Hale Final PDF, to an anonymous, encrypted email address every 12 hours. It was a dead drop. Even if the laptop was wiped, the file was already out. That's all Chief Marlowe needs, Fern said, her voice grim with satisfaction. Evan's report on the macro, the remote access, and this cron job, it's enough. She was right. Within hours. Chief Marlowe had used Evan's technical affidavit to get a limited search warrant, not for the house, but specifically for Lena's laptop, phone, and any external storage. They weren't serving it yet. They were waiting for the right moment. While the police waited, Fern set a trap. They're blocked at the bank, but they don't know why, she explained. We are going to use that. The fraud department is cooperating. We're sending Lena a second notice from the Bank of Shoreline. The notice was a masterpiece. It was a formal, intimidating letter on bank letterhead, stating that the application for the joint account had a signature mismatch and required an in-person verification by both parties to finalize the account. Mr. Thomas Hale and his authorized agent, Mrs. Lena Hale, would need to come to the main branch and sign the final forms in front of a bank officer. It was a lure, designed to get them to show their hand, to get them to physically appear and commit to the fraud in a room full of witnesses. As we waited for that bait to be taken, the outside pressure mounted. Val, the over-eager realtor from Seabright Realty, jumped the gun. He posted a teaser photo on his business Instagram, My Backyard, the view of the bay, with the caption, Harbour Ridge Gem coming soon, this view won't last. Fern was on the phone in less than 5 minutes. This is Fern Wilder, counsel for Marjorie Hale. You have posted an unauthorized photograph of my client's private residence for commercial gain. You have 60 seconds to remove it, or the next call you get will be about a lawsuit for damages, trespass, and harassment. After that, I will be sending you a formal cease and desist. The photo was down in 45 seconds. Then, Evan called again. They tried, he said, and I could hear the anger in his voice. They tried to log into the county registry e-filing system. Last night, at 2 a.m. From where? I whispered. From your house, Mrs. Hale. The IP address is yours. They were trying to see if the deed had been flagged, to see if you'd locked them out. He'd also had more time to dig into the macro, the piece of code designed to forge my name. He'd found the source file, a high-resolution scan of my signature, lifted from a bank check I had written to Thomas for June's birthday. It was programmed to find the signature line on the PDF and paste the image, perfectly aligned. The final piece, however, was the most damning. In that same draft folder on Lena's email, Evan found a message she had written but not yet sent, addressed to that same anonymous, encrypted email. It was one line. After signing, transfer money to Shorebit wallet, then cash out. Shorebit, Fern said flatly. Cryptocurrency. Untraceable. She wasn't just planning to move your money to a joint account. She was planning to make it vanish. While the digital noose tightened, the real-world one was strangling my son. I was in the kitchen, reading, when a call came to the house landline. I picked it up. A man with a brusque, professional voice asked for Thomas Hale. He's not available, I said. This is ARS Collections. The man snapped. We've made 8 attempts to contact him. If he doesn't settle this delinquent sports betting account for $7,800, we will be proceeding with wage garnishment and legal action. I hung up. When Thomas came in later, his face grey with stress, I told him. He didn't deny it. He just collapsed. He sat at the kitchen table and finally admitted it. He'd borrowed money from me, using the card Lena had set up, trying to win it back. He'd opened that joint account application with Lena, thinking it would make things simpler. She said it was just organizing, Mom, just in case. She said we needed it for the house. For the house, Thomas, or for your debts? He didn't have an answer. This was Fern's chance. She called him the next day, on his own cell phone, asking him to her office. She separated him from Lena. I wasn't there, but Fern told me what happened. She laid out the evidence, the macro, the crypto wallet, the police warrant. She showed him the legal cliff he was standing on. You are a party to felony fraud, Thomas, she told him. You are facing years in prison. Then she offered him the lifeline. Or, you can be a witness. You can tell the truth. You can enter a court-mandated debt and addiction recovery program. You can testify to Lena's actions. He was wavering. He was terrified. He left her office, promising nothing. That night, I heard them arguing. Lena's voice was a low, vicious hiss. You need to fix this. Thomas June's birthday is in 2 weeks. We need that power of attorney finalized before the party. We'll use the party to get the real estate agents in, to organize the sale. Get her to sign it. Get it done. That night, I sat in Cal's leather armchair, the house silent except for the wind whistling off the bay. I could almost hear Cal's voice, a low rumble, the way he sounded when Thomas had gotten into his first fender bender at 16. Help the boy, Marge, he had said, his hand on my shoulder. But don't set yourself on fire to keep him warm. For days, that single memory had been my torment. I was standing at a terrible crossroads. If I pursued this, if I brought the full weight of the law down on them, I would be destroying my son's life and in the process, irrevocably damaging June's. She would lose her parents. She would carry that trauma forever. But if I gave in, if I let this organization happen to protect the peace, I would lose everything: my home, my savings, my identity. I would be handing Cal's legacy over to a gambler and a grifter. I would be teaching June that it was acceptable to take from others, as long as you were clever about it. I called Fern on the safe phone the next morning. My voice was hoarse. Fern? What about June? If this goes the way it's going, what happens to her? Fern's reply was immediate, cutting through my anguish with precision. Protecting a child is not about shielding them from reality, Marjorie. It is about not forcing them to live in a world of lies and deceit. The kindest, most protective thing we can do for June is to ensure this process is clean, fast, and handled entirely by adults. She will be insulated. That is my, and the court's, primary concern. You are protecting her future by securing your own? Her words steadied me. Don't set yourself on fire. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't save Lena. But maybe I could salvage something of Thomas. I called him on his cell. Meet me at the ferry dock, I said, and hung up. He was waiting for me at the end of the pier, huddled in a thin jacket, looking out at the water. He looked small and old. Mom? He said, his voice cracking. I am going to make you an offer, Thomas, I said, standing beside him, not looking at him, watching the whitecaps. It is the only offer you will get. You will enter a court-approved program for your gambling and your drinking. You will sit down with Fern Wilder, without Lena, and you will tell her every single thing you know, from the very beginning, and you will sever all financial ties with your wife, effective immediately. He turned to me, his eyes wide and wet. I can't. Lena, Mom, I'm so scared. What are you scared of? Thomas losing my house? Or her? He finally broke. The sob that tore out of him was the sound of a little boy, a sound I hadn't heard in 30 years. He leaned against the railing and wept. I lost the money from the severance, he choked out. All of it, on the online tables. Then I took out cards. I thought I could win it back. I just needed... Lena said you were getting old, that you shouldn't be managing it all anyway. He scrubbed his face, his shame a raw, ugly thing. She said it wasn't stealing. It was just legalizing what was already mine. She set it all up. The software. The e-filing account. She found your signature. Oh, God. Mom. I will help you, I said. The words tasted like medicine, bitter but necessary. I will not pay your debts. You will pay those, but I will pay for the recovery program. All of it. Every cent will go directly from Fern's office to the facility. Nothing will pass through your hands. You will sign a legal agreement to this effect. That is the deal. He nodded, still crying, unable to speak. One more thing, I said. I need proof. I need something that she doesn't know you have. He fumbled in his pocket, his hands shaking. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. She has another email, a secret one. She's careless. She thinks I'm stupid. He wrote down the address and a password. She saves things there. He agreed to cooperate. He signed the commitment agreement in Fern's office the next day. And that night, Evan, working with the police, accessed the hidden email account. It was a treasure trove. But one item made even Fern go silent. It was a video file, a screen recording made from Lena's laptop. It showed her mouse moving, downloading the blank, durable Power M Hale final PDF from a legal forms website. It recorded her opening the scanned image of my signature, and it recorded her dragging it, dropping it, and resizing it onto the signature line. It was a step-by-step recording of the forgery. She was documenting her process, Fern whispered, horrified. Either to replicate it or to... My God, she's meticulous. Now, we had her. We had the intent, the tools, the digital fingerprints, and now, a video of the crime itself. The police and the court finalized the injunction, locking down every transaction related to my property, my name, and my assets. It was time to set the final trap. I took out my smartphone, the compromised one. I sent a single text message to Lena. I've been thinking about what you said. You are right. It would be easier for Thomas to handle things. I will sign the paperwork. But not until after we have June's birthday party. I want her to have one nice day. I hit send. Less than 30 seconds later, her reply came. I knew you'd see it our way. The party will be perfect. The day of June's 8th birthday arrived under a sky of bruised, heavy clouds. But Lena was a whirlwind of false cheer, stringing up fairy lights across the backyard deck, their tiny bulbs already glowing in the grey afternoon light. She had ordered a long banquet table, and it was laden with food I didn't recognize. She was showing off, not celebrating my granddaughter, but presenting the house. Her house. Isn't it perfect? Marjorie, she called out, her voice high and brittle. We'll be able to host parties like this all the time. I nodded, my stomach a cold knot. It's lovely. Lena. At 2:00, exactly as planned. Val from Seabright Realty arrived. He brought a man with him, a quiet, observant man in a nondescript polo shirt, who Val introduced as a colleague here for the evaluation. I knew from Fern he was Detective Robles, undercover. We'll just get those final portfolio shots, Val said. Too loud, too slick. Won't be a moment. They weren't the only ones watching. Fern had arrived earlier, dressed not in a suit but in casual linens, looking for all the world like an old friend. She had brought her assistant, a calm, kind-eyed woman named Maria, who immediately gravitated toward June. Maria was a social worker, dispatched by the court, her entire purpose to be a shield for my granddaughter. Evan wasn't visible. He was parked 2 streets over in his van, but his presence was here. A small black box, no bigger than a deck of cards, was plugged into an outlet in my kitchen. He was monitoring any new, unsecured electronic signals on my property. I found June by the edge of the yard, watching the other children I didn't know, from Lena's new circle run around the bouncy castle. I held a long, flat box. This was your Grandpa Cal's? I said, kneeling beside her. I opened it. Inside, on a bed of faded tissue paper, was a kite. It was handmade, silk and balsa wood, painted a brilliant blue with a long, streaming tail of red ribbons. He made it. He loved to fly it right here, over the bay. June touched the silk, her eyes wide. It's beautiful. He always said a kite was about holding on, but also knowing how to let the string out. It's about being safe, even when you're flying high. I hugged her tightly. Happy birthday, my sweet girl. As I stood, the wind picked up. A sudden, cold gust from the water. The strings of fairy lights swayed violently. The paper napkins on the banquet table took flight, scattering across the lawn, and from the town, faint but clear. The bell at St. Jude's began to toll 4 o'clock, a premonition. Val and the detective were in the house. I heard Val's voice, trying to be discreet. "Just call the finance guy," he said, clearly on his phone. "Tell him the walkthrough is positive, and I need the release code for the file." I knew from Fern that every word was being recorded. Lena saw me watching. The party was just a backdrop. Now was the time. She walked over to me, her smile fixed and terrifying. Thomas trailed behind her, his face pale and slick with sweat. He looked like he was going to be sick. "Marjorie," Lena said, her voice dropping. "All business. I'm so glad you're finally seeing reason." She pulled a thick, cream-coloured envelope from the designer bag she'd left on the table. She fanned out several pages. "It's the hard copy," she said. "The durable power of attorney. Exactly what we discussed. My mobile notary is just down the street. She'll be here in 10 minutes. She was forcing the moment. She was done with digital tricks. This was the final, physical push. Thomas made a small, choking sound. He looked at me, then at Fern, his eyes screaming with panic. Fern, who was calmly sipping a glass of water, met his gaze. She gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. "Stick to the script." "Let's get this done," Lena said, her voice sharp. She took my arm. She didn't guide me. She pulled me toward the patio table, away from the children, away from the party. She laid the papers flat, smoothing them with her palm. The wind whipped my hair across my face. She clicked a pen, a heavy, expensive-looking pen with blue ink, and thrust it into my hand. "Right here," she said, tapping the signature line. "Sign it. Marjorie." The pen felt heavy in my hand. I let it hover over the paper, the wind tearing at the document, trying to pull it from Lena's grasp. I looked up, meeting her impatient gaze. "I have one question." "Lena?" I said, my voice perfectly calm, cutting through the rising wind. "Right here, in Section 3, it says this power of attorney is effective immediately upon signing, not upon incapacitation." "Why?" Lena laughed, a short, sharp bark. "Don't be naive, Marjorie. It has to be immediate. Otherwise it's useless." She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, sharp and triumphant. "How else are we supposed to move the house title quickly?" I heard the tiny, almost imperceptible click from Fern's direction, but I didn't need it. The small digital recorder, nestled in my jacket pocket, was already running. At that exact moment, Fern's safe phone, sitting on the table beside her water glass, vibrated once. She glanced at it. It was the signal. "That's Evan, at the gate," Fern said, her voice clear and strong. "He's just confirmed a live connection. Lena's device is actively accessing the Penny County e-filing portal, right now, from this house's IP address." Lena's head snapped up, her eyes wide, the smile vanishing. What are you talking about?" "He's talking about this," a new voice said. Chief Marlowe stepped through the side gate, followed by 2 uniformed officers and Detective Robles, who was no longer a colleague, but an officer holding a warrant. "Mrs. Lena Hale," Marlowe said, his voice booming over the sound of the flapping decorations. "We have a limited warrant to search and seize specific electronic devices and documents related to an investigation into identity fraud and financial exploitation." It happened fast. like a scene in a movie, precise and brutal. As the officers stepped onto the deck, Maria, the social worker, sprang into action. She had already moved next to June by the bouncy castle. "Hey, June." Her voice was bright, drowning out the confusion. "I brought a giant puzzle, and I have the chocolate cake you wanted. Let's go set it up in the dining room, where it's warm." She took June's hand, and with the practiced ease of a professional, guided her inside, insulating her from the chaos, leading her to a safe space with cake and puzzles, completely unaware of the adult world imploding behind her. Val, the realtor, stood frozen, his phone still in his hand, his face white. I don't know what this is about." Robles took the phone from his stunned grip. The line was still open. On the other end, a tinny, impatient voice could be heard. "Val, is it done? Just get the code and transfer the money." "We'll take that. Mr. Val," Robles said, ending the call and bagging the phone as evidence. "You can't do this," Lena shrieked, finally finding her voice. She lunged for the papers on the table. "This is harassment. This is my mother-in-law's." She agreed. "Stay where you are, ma'am," one of the officers said, stepping between her and the table. The other officer was already inside the house, guided by Fern. They emerged moments later with Lena's laptop, the portable printer, and a small box of USB drives found in her bag. "We've got the laptop," the officer confirmed. "And this," he held up the printer. "It's loaded with that PDF macro Evan identified, and the email draft to the Bank of Shoreline is still active in the cache." Lena turned, her eyes landing on Thomas. Her face was a mask of pure venom. You did this. You weak. Stupid." Thomas just crumpled. He slid into one of the patio chairs, his whole body shaking, hands covering his face. "I'm sorry, Mum." He sobbed, his voice muffled. "I'm so sorry. I told her. I told her it was wrong. I'll confirm. I'll confirm the timeline, the debts, all of it." He looked up, his face streaked with tears, acknowledging his role in the disaster. "Lena Hale, you are being detained pending investigation," Marlowe said. Fern Wilder stepped forward, her voice rising above the sobs and the wind. She held up the court order I'd received days ago. "And let this be known," she announced. "As of this moment, per the order of the Penny County Court, a permanent financial injunction is in place. All transactions related to Marjorie Hale's assets are suspended. Any realtors, agents, or financial parties, including Seabright Realty, are ordered to cease and desist all contact and vacate this property immediately." Val looked like he was going to faint. Evan had come in with the police. He'd been the one to guide the officer directly to the laptop. He walked over to me, standing in the quiet eye of the storm. He looked at the chaos, the officers, the crying, the scattered party food. He looked at me, and his face was grim, but also relieved. He nodded once, as if to confirm, "Call the police now." And we had, just in time. The emergency hearing was not in the grand courtroom I'd seen on television. It was in a small, fluorescent-lit room, number 4B, that smelled of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. It was cold, precise, and utterly terrifying. Lena was there, sitting beside a hurried-looking public defender. She looked smaller, diminished, stripped of her sharp confidence. Fern Wilder was not diminished. She stood before the judge, a pragmatic woman in a black robe, and she did not argue or plead. She built a case, brick by brick. Your Honor, Fern said, her voice clear and level. We present the log files from the Harbour Bight technical analysis, showing repeated remote access. She placed the first exhibit on the table. We present the macro script, retrieved from the defendant's hard drive, designed specifically to forge Mrs. Hale's signature. She continued. We present the screen capture video retrieved from the defendant's private email, showing the act of forgery being practiced. The video played on a monitor, silent and damning. We all watched my signature, my name, being digitally violated. We present the email drafts referencing a Surebit crypto wallet, indicating clear intent to liquidate and hide assets. And finally, she held up the evidence bag from the party. We present the hard copy of the Durable Power M. Hale final PDF, which the defendant attempted to coerce Mrs. Hale into signing yesterday. Lena's lawyer stood, shuffling his papers. Your Honor, he began, his voice weak. This is a tragic family misunderstanding. Mrs. Lena Hale, my client, was merely organizing. She was trying to help her elderly mother-in-law, who was confused. These were drafts, perhaps overzealous planning. There was no criminal intent. Fern didn't wait. Objection, she said, her voice like ice. Intent is clear. She turned to the judge. Was it a misunderstanding at 2:00 in the morning? When the defendant used Mrs. Hale's IP address to access the county registry e-filing system, was it helping when she created a macro to forge a signature? Was it organizing when she referenced an untraceable crypto wallet, the seized devices, the timestamps, and the defendant's own video prove this was a calculated criminal act? Then Thomas was called. He looked grey, his hands shaking so badly he had to grip the sides of the witness stand. He would not look at Lena. He looked only at the judge. He admitted everything. The gambling, the debts, the credit cards. He confirmed, in a voice so low the judge had to ask him to speak up, that Lena had orchestrated the entire plan, that she had pressured him, that she had called it legalizing their inheritance. The judge had heard enough. She looked at Lena, her expression one of deep, weary contempt. The temporary restraining order is hereby made a permanent, long-term order of financial protection for the petitioner, Marjorie Hale. The judge wasn't finished. Based on the evidence presented by counsel and the testimony of Mr. Thomas Hale, this court finds probable cause. I am referring this matter to the District Attorney's Office. Mrs. Lena Hale will be charged with felony identity fraud, forgery, and attempted grand larceny. She turned her gaze on Val and his associate, who were present with their own lawyer. I am also directing the DA to open a full investigation into the business practices of Seabright Realty and its agents regarding this matter. Finally, she looked at my son. Mr. Hale, your testimony has saved you from immediate charges, but you are not blameless. You are hereby mandated by this court to enter a minimum 12-month addiction recovery program. Furthermore, you will be subject to a court-supervised repayment plan for every cent you defrauded your mother. Before dismissing us, the judge added one more, critical point. The welfare of the minor child, June Hale, is paramount. All adult conflicts, visitations, and legal proceedings are to be kept entirely separate from her. She is to be protected. Is that understood? It was over. The bank, notified of the court order, sent me a letter of apology within 24 hours, confirming the fraudulent joint beneficiary application was permanently destroyed. I went to the Penny County Registry Office, and they activated a perma alert on my house title, a permanent flag that would text my safe phone if so much as a comma was changed on my deed. A week later, the Harbour Ridge Gazette ran a story on the front page. Our names were kept out of it, but the details were familiar. Elder financial abuse in the digital age? The headline read, 5 warning signs you're helpful. Relative isn't helping. I cut it out and folded it, placing it in the back of my old blue ledger. After the court hearing, Lena was released pending her criminal trial. She tried to call my house, twice. I didn't answer. Then, an email, sent to my old, compromised account. It was a long, rambling message about misunderstandings and negotiating a fair split so she could start fresh with June. I forwarded it to Fern. Fern's reply, which she sent to Lena's lawyer, was one sentence. All further contact will be considered harassment and will be added to the criminal complaint. We never heard from her directly again. Thomas was different. He was quiet, hollowed out. He was living in a sober living apartment in the next town over, part of his court-mandated program. He called me, his voice shaky, and asked if he could help. In the old shop. I found him at the Blue Lark upholstery shop the next Saturday, standing awkwardly among the rolls of fabric. I didn't say anything. I just pointed to Cal's old leather armchair, which I had brought in. The leather was cracked and torn, the stuffing coming out. It had been our moral compass, and it was broken. We worked in silence for hours, pulling out the old tacks, stripping away the worn-out hide. It was hard. Physical work. Finally, as we were stretching the new, rich brown leather the same colour as the original, he spoke. "I have my 12-month chip. Mom," he said, not looking at me, his hands busy with the staple gun. "From the gambling program. It's just a start." "I know," I said. I handed him the roadmap from Fern. "This is the agreement. 12 months of therapy, which I will pay for. A supervised repayment plan for the money you took, which you will pay for. If you relapse, if you miss one payment, if you lie once, the door is closed. Thomas. Permanently." He nodded, his eyes clear for the first time in years. "I know. Thank you." June came to visit. The court had assigned a temporary guardian to handle visitation, and June's world was, as Fern had promised, insulated. She came over on weekends. The rule was simple. We baked. We gardened. We flew her kite. We did not talk about her mother. We did not talk about her father's program. We talked about school and dogs and the colour of the water. I was not her son's keeper or her daughter-in-law's judge. I was her grandmother. My only job was to let her be a child. Evan stopped by. He handed me a small black USB drive, the final copy of the evidence. "For your records," he said, with a respectful nod. I took it and dropped it into the old blue ledger, which I kept in my desk. A double stitch in the seam of my life, a precaution I now knew I'd always have to take. The Bank of Shoreline sent a formal letter, thanking me for alerting them to a significant vulnerability in the durable power of attorney system, and informing me they were now part of a regional task force to prevent it from happening to others. I started my own small task force. I called it the Harbour Ridge Matrons, a silly name for a serious purpose. Just a few women, all my age, in my living room once a month. I showed them how to freeze their credit. I explained what a DocuSign proxy was and how to spot a fake. I showed them how to save digital evidence. That night, the wind off the bay was strong, but clean. I was sitting in Cal's chair. It was whole again, solid and strong beneath me. In the backyard, I could see June, her face turned up to the sky. She was flying the blue kite. It soared, the red ribbon tail streaming against the darkening clouds. The line was taut, pulling, but she held on, her feet planted firmly on the ground. I watched her, and I knew what the answer was. Helping a son is not giving him the keys to the safe. Loving a grandchild is not about forgiveness, it is about protection. It is about keeping their small world bright and safe from the darkness that adults make. I heard the heavy oak of my front door click shut, the deadbolt sliding home. My house, my name, and my life were my own, legally and righteously. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from, so please drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it some extra support by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.